On May 18th, 2026, one of the most infamous design mistakes ever printed was unbanned in Magic's modern format. Umezawa's Jitte, the legendary equipment from the 2005 expansion Betrayers of Kamigawa, a card that was so oppressive in its standard era that it was actually pre-banned when Modern was introduced in 2011. Now, 15 years later, Jitte is legal in Modern for the first time in the format's history. But the format today is unrecognizable compared to its early days. Card design philosophy looks very different now than it did in 2011. Powerful expansions like Modern Horizons, Lord of the Rings, and many Fire design sets in Standard have all left their mark on Magic across the board. It's because of these changes that Magic's research and design team felt that Umezawa's Jitte, a card notorious for its miserable play patterns and tendency to warp games around itself, is now a safe card to release back into the wild. This is a card that once put 17 total copies into the top 8 of the World Championship the year it was released. For well over a decade, Umezawa's Jitte terrorized creatures of all shapes and sizes. The card was a staple in Legacy, a windmill slam first pick in Cube, the consensus king of virtually every published list of the best equipment in 1v1 Magic, regularly beating out other game-breaking contenders like Skull Clamp and Batter Skull. How can a card with gameplay as broken as Umezawa's Jitte be responsibly unleashed onto a format where 1- and 2-mana creatures reign supreme? What made the card so overpowered in the first place, and what has changed about Magic design to allow the longtime apex predator of creature combat to run free for the first time in Modern's history? And of course, the most damning question of all, could it be possible that this once format warping weapon is not only safe, but irrelevant? To find out, we will need to return to the very beginning of Jitte's dominance, to that ancient era known as 2005. We'll look at how the design mistake happened in the first place, the impact it had over its 21-year lifespan, and why the card may indeed be a reasonable unban in the context of 2026 Modern. This is the story of Toshiro Umezawa's Jitte. And if that is not an exciting enough introduction to what is essentially a video essay about one of Magic the Gathering's most famously infamous cards, then I can get even more exciting for you by talking about how to turn your love of gaming into learning career skills like coding and DevOps, all thanks to Boot.dev, sponsor of this video. I mean, think about it. How many Magic the Gathering cards do you have memorized? How many rules interactions can you understand? How many Pokemon can you name? How is it that you can do all of that, but you can't code? That's because learning those things was easy because it was like playing a game. So what if someone turned learning how to code into playing a game? And that's just what Boot.dev does. Boot.dev is an online gamified learning platform dedicated to teaching back-end web development and computer science fundamentals. It uses an RPG-style leveling system where you earn XP, complete quests, you unlock achievements, there's even a leaderboard, and you do all of this while writing real code directly into your browser. Boot.dev is ideal for beginners or those thinking about changing or maybe just starting a new career. That's because Boot.dev provides a structured, self-paced curriculum tailored specifically for getting a back-end engineering job. And let's talk about what you're really interested in. Did you know the median salary for DevOps engineers or professionals in the US in 2025 was about $165,000 on average? Whoa! And the Boot.dev Discord community has tons of real-life humans to help you if you ever get stuck along the way. So what are you waiting for? Go to Boot.dev to try out the courses for free right now. Use my code Talarian to get 25% off of your entire first year if you choose the annual plan. Thank you, Boot.dev, for sponsoring this video. In February of 2005, Magic the Gathering was just 12 years old. The period now considered the modern era of card design, that is, from 8th edition forward, was still only in its second year. The equipment subtype of artifacts was brand new. It had just been introduced in the previous block, Mirrodin, and immediately resulted in multiple power outliers: Skull Clamp, Cranial Plating, and the limited uncommon all-star Luxodon Warhammer. The first set of Kamigawa block, Champions of Kamigawa, was having little impact on Standard due to the enduring sins of its predecessors. 8 more cards would soon join Skullclamp on the ban list, crowning Mirrodin as the block with the greatest contribution to the Standard ban list ever, surpassing even the dreaded Urza's Saga block. It was within this Standard environment that the second Kamigawa set, Betrayers, first entered players' consciousness. And as players pored over the card list, the prevailing sentiment was that this was yet another underpowered set that had no hope of putting a dent in the Mirrodin block constructed format that Standard had become. But tucked away, way down to the very bottom of the card list, sat an oddly templated little equipment that went almost unnoticed during previews. Umezawa's Jitte, the signature weapon for the protagonist of the Kamigawa storyline, Toshiro Umezawa. Umezawa's Jitte is a 2-mana legendary equipment that equips for 2 generic mana. The unconventional text box reads, whenever equipped creature deals combat damage, put 2 charge counters on Umezawa's Jitte. Remove a charge counter from Umezawa's Jitte. Choose 1. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, or target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn, or you gain 2 life. Taken one at a time, none of these 3 modes look particularly impressive, and even when you account for the fact that a single combat damage trigger gives you 2 bites at the apple, you still need to equip the Jitte to a creature and attack with it before you get any value at all. These factors make it easy to read Umezawa's Jitte and assume it's mediocre at best. Magic legend Zvi Mauschwitz certainly did this the first time he evaluated the card. But then he realized a key point about Jitte's triggered ability. It triggers off any combat damage the creature deals, not just combat damage to players. It is impossible to overstate how much the omission of the clause to players on Jitte's text box matters. Now, instead of being an equipment that gets utterly invalidated by chump blocking, it's an equipment that makes chump blocking embarrassing. When you throw your hapless creature in front of an attacker wielding a Jitte, not only do you lose that creature in combat, but the Jitte still gets the same 2 counters it would have gotten if you just let the damage through. Essentially, the player who controlled an Umezawa's Jitte held sole ownership over the combat step for the remainder of the game. It often wasn't even necessary to activate the Jitte for its influence to be felt. The mere presence of an active Jitte made playing out creatures in hand an unappealing prospect to say the least. Each new trigger represented death for any 2 toughness creature. The +2/+2 mode made it virtually impossible to profitably block a creature equipped with Jitte once the equipment started stacking counters. And the problem would only get worse and worse as the game progressed. As the Jitte continued to trigger, you couldn't even race it. If necessary, the Jitte controller could always just start popping counters to gain life. It did not take many games with a Jitte in play on either side of the field for both players involved to understand this was a seriously messed up Magic the Gathering card. Many players at Betrayers of Kamigawa pre-release who are either lucky enough to open a Jitte in their pool or unlucky enough to pair up against someone else who did, all walked away from their event feeling like Cassandra of Troy, heralding a nightmare on the horizon that no one else could see. And when I say no one, I really mean no one. The designers themselves had no idea of the monster they'd created when they added Umezawa's Jitte to the card file. Though, in fairness, they didn't intend to design the Jitte that we all know today. The original Jitte design had similar templating, except it only added one counter on combat damage. More importantly, the -1/-1 ability was missing from its trio of modes. In its place was an option to add 2 black mana. This version of the card was far, far too weak for what was supposed to be the iconic weapon of the block's central character. To fix it, game designer Paul Sottosanti suggested that the card get 2 counters instead of just 1. This solved the problem immediately, making the card powerful enough to matter in Limited, even if it still didn't quite cut it in Constructed. Then, toward the very end of the development process, the editing team realized that the card didn't work within the rules. The +2/+2 and 2 life modes used the stack, while the double black ability did not, being a mana ability. The same modal ability cannot, within the rules of Magic, have different modes operate at different speeds. The card needed to be changed. The design team still wanted the replacement mode to be black aligned, and so ultimately settled on the Jitte doling out -1/-1 debuffs. But by this point, there was no time to test the new version, so no one tested the new version. The card shipped and printed as is. But even once Jitte became legal in Standard, it didn't catch on right away. For one thing, those 8 broken Mirrodin cards did indeed overshadow anything from Betrayers of Kamigawa until they were banned the following month. But for another, even players who recognized that Jitte was powerful in an inherently creature-based format like Limited still didn't see how its game-warping effect would translate to Constructed. For the first decade and change of Magic's existence, creatures were terrible, wholly outclassed by their non-creature counterparts. The combat step just wasn't the primary terrain of struggle in most games of Magic. But though these players were right about what Magic had been, they failed to recognize what Magic was becoming. From Wizards' perspective, it was actually a failure of card design that creatures had been irrelevant for so long. As such, the shift to the modern era included a pivot toward more powerful creatures that could hold their own amidst a flurry of powerful spells. The set that followed Kamigawa Block, for instance, gave Magic its first no-downside 2-mana 3/3 in Watch Wolf. Believe it or not, this card is a pretty big step forward in terms of the power of creature design. As creature combat gained importance in Constructed Magic, Umezawa's Jitte was the primary beneficiary. At the first World Championship after Betrayers of Kamigawa released, 17 copies of Jitte made it into the top 8, across 5 deck lists and 3 archetypes. The card functioned not only as the broken equipment itself, but also as a removal spell for opposing Jittes. The way the legend rule worked at the time was that 2 copies of the legendary permanent could not exist on either side of the table at the same time. If 2 copies of Jitte ever did see each other in play, both copies would go to the graveyard. Perhaps the best indicator of the card's influence on the format was these decks' choice of mana dorks. Though all 5 decks were multicolor, 4 of the 5 favored the mono-green Llanowar Elves over the rainbow-producing Birds of Paradise, simply because Llanowar Elves had a single point of power. Birds of Paradise, for all its unrivaled mana fixing, provided 0 utility when equipped with the Jitte. Unlike its predecessor Skullclamp, Umezawa's Jitte was never banned in Standard, but it remained a game, and indeed format, warping card until the day it rotated. But Jitte's departure from Standard didn't mean a departure from Magic as a whole. Its most immediate impact was in the extended format, a format comprising of the past 4 years of sets. Now, players today might call a set like that Standard, but I digress, that's a different video. At the time, Extended became home to aggressive Jitte decks of all different flavors, from Burn to Zoo to White Weenie to Reliquary Loam. In fact, in 2009 Extended, Umezawa's Jitte was the most ubiquitous card in the entire format, appearing in 53% of all top-performing decks at major tournaments that year. Yes, that's more than half. The next most played non-land cards were Engineered Explosives and Spell Snare at 39% apiece. Notably, these are two of the cards best suited for answering an opposing Jitte. The card took a little longer to find a home in Legacy. The format was too combo-oriented for the first several years of Jitte's legality for such a combat-oriented card to find purchase. But the printings of Stoneforge Mystic in Worldwake and Delver of Secrets in Innistrad pushed the format toward a more creature-centric place, where Jitte triggers mattered once again. Stoneforge Mystic in particular was a natural companion to Umezawa's Jitte in Legacy. A deck with 4 copies of Stoneforge and 1 Jitte really has 5 copies of Jitte. The premier home for Stoneforge Mystic and Jitte in Legacy for years was mono-white Death and Taxes. This creature-heavy deck boasted a lopsided matchup against other creature decks like Delver and Burn, thanks in large part to its reliable access to the powerful equipment. Jitte even carved out a space for itself in cubes of all power levels. This included Vintage Cube, a format defined by all of the strongest cards in Magic, most notably the Power 9. Undaunted, Jitte held its own for years, alongside the likes of Time Walk, Ancestral Recall, and Black Lotus. Few other non-power cards elicited as much of a groan when they hit the table as Jitte did. Now, when Jitte was included in Modern's inaugural pre-ban list alongside 20 other historically broken cards, no one batted an eye. I mean, of course Umezawa's Jitte should be banned. Remember what it was like to play against that card? And there on the ban list it sat for 15 years, as the format grew more and more powerful without it. From the sidelines, it watched the metagame develop. It watched cards like Splinter Twin, Deathrite Shaman, and Birthing Pod join it in ignominy. It watched its companion on the Day Zero ban list, Golgari Grave Troll, get unbanned, and then rebanned in the span of 2 years. It watched several other Day Zero friends, Valakut the Molten Pinnacle, Bitter Blossom, Wild Nakatl, Jace the Mind Sculptor, and even its loyal Stoneforge Mystic all leave the ban list without returning. And then it watched decks like Hogak, Simic Oko Urza, Luris Death's Shadow, Bant Nadu, and Grinding Breach repeatedly break the format. It watched as the merciless blight of Modern Horizons spread, slowly at first, then all at once, until virtually every deck in Modern was more Modern Horizons than not. These direct-to-modern sets, in tandem with the introduction of Fire Design in 2019, pushed just about every legal card from Jitte's era into irrelevancy. Though, ironically, another card from Betrayers of Kamigawa, Goryo's Vengeance, has managed to avoid getting sent upstate. If anything, Goryo's has only gotten stronger as time has gone on, thanks to cards like Atraxa, Grand Unifier, Ephemerate, and Psychic Frog. But Goryo's Vengeance is the exception, not the rule. Overwhelmingly, cards from 2005 are not cards one can justify including in their modern decks. Even the 2010 card Splinter Twin, which for a decade was the single most clamored for modern unban, wound up doing nothing at all after it was granted its freedom at the end of 2024. This was the format Jitte was released into in 2026. About a year before Jitte was unbanned, I released a video discussing potential modern unbans. In it, I said that if Umezawa's Jitte was unbanned in Modern, the format would not notice, that it would be a Splinter Twin level unban. Now that we've seen what Modern looks like after a few months of Jitte's legality, I can confidently say that I was right. Umezawa's Jitte has hardly had any impact on Modern whatsoever. None of the top 15 decks on MTG Goldfish run even a single copy of Jitte in their 75s, despite half of them running plenty of cheap creatures and relying on good old-fashioned creature combat to win games. Except the creature combat isn't really good old-fashioned at all. Yes, the average mana cost of creatures in Modern now is the same as it was when the format began, but the creatures themselves are significantly faster and more powerful. Guide of Souls, Psychic Frog, Philia Exuberant Shepherd, Slick Shot Show-Off, Territorial Kavu. These cards laugh in Jitte's face. Creature combat is rarely decided on the kinds of narrow margins within which Jitte excels. You're more often just getting your face bashed in with a shovel. And none of this is to mention the ubiquity of efficient removal in Modern that would make it near impossible to connect with a creature holding a Jitte even once. The format has 0 mana, Swords to Plowshares after all. No, it is simply irresponsible in today's Modern to plan on spending 4 total mana, equipping Jitte to a creature, and then turning that creature sideways. The only Modern deck where Jitte is a reasonable inclusion is the Shambling Corpse of Hammer Time, a deck built around auto-equipping Colossus Hammer to a creature with the help of Sigarda's aid. In Hammer Time, you do not need to pay the equip cost of the Jitte, significantly mitigating one of the biggest weaknesses of the card. But Hammer Time is not a very good deck, and even there, it's unlikely you would choose to search up your 1 copy of Jitte rather than a Colossus Hammer, Kori Steel Cutter, or Shadow Spear. The saddest part of Jitte's 2026 irrelevancy, at least for those players who love the card, is that I believe there actually was a window where the card would have been a real difference maker in Modern without being too good. That period was between 2021 and 2023, the period when Hammer Time was one of the best decks in Modern. Jitte would have been phenomenal in that iteration of Hammer Time. A silver bullet for the mirror, as well as decks like Death's Shadow, Burn, Yawgmoth, and any number of other more fringe creature decks. It would have done little against decks like 4-color Omnath, Tron, or Cascade, but its utility in the matchups where it was good would have made it an excellent one of in the Hammer deck specifically. Alas, now it is too late. We cannot turn back the clock. Modern will never again be the kind of format where an active Jitte warps games, or even bends them at all. But while I am not a fan of power creep by any stretch, I actually don't think it's a bad thing that Umezawa's Jitte is unplayable in Modern. To be honest, games that revolve around Umezawa's Jitte are not very fun. They aren't exciting, they're not skill testing, they're not even particularly interesting. In fact, they all pretty much look exactly the same. All the non-Jitte players' creatures die on sight, and eventually the Jitte player punches through for a big burst of damage with a flurry of +2/+2 activations. Umezawa's Jitte isn't unplayable in Modern because the card is suddenly weak. In a vacuum, it is arguably still the most powerful true equipment card in-game. It is specifically the texture of Modern, and the result of recent creature design, especially those hailing from Modern Horizons sets, that render Jitte useless in the format today. And it's not just Modern. Legacy no longer has any home for Jitte either. People still play Death and Taxes, and as the name suggests, people always will. But these days, Stoneforge Mystic only fetches cards like Pre-War Formalware and Meteor Sword. Jitte doesn't even grace the deck's sideboard. Card games change. That's inevitable, especially for a game that's existed for as long as Magic the Gathering has. Still, it's remarkable that Umezawa's Jitte, once referred to by Magic play designers as one of the more broken cards in recent memory, is no longer banned in any format. And yet, it sees roughly the same amount of play as if it were banned everywhere. But perhaps this is a fitting end for a card that never should have seen the light of day to begin with. I hope very much you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to help support us making more videos like this, you can browse our affiliate landing page at cardkingdom.com/TCC. It's where I have a collection of my favorite products and accessories, including the Academic Deck Box, a deck box that I helped design alongside the legendary accessory maker GameGenic. What I love about the Academic is that the main compartment can hold 133 double-sleeved cards. So not only does just about any deck fit, triple sleeve decks fit, but there's still always ample room for additional cards and tokens. Even if you've got a double-sleeved, thick inner-sleeved, blinged-out foil deck, the Academic can fit your Commander deck. Truly, with the Academic, I wanted to make a deck box for everyone, and I think everyone will enjoy it. Available at cardkingdom.com/TCC, or if the Academic isn't for you, just browse Card Kingdom's site full of great deals on everything from Magic singles to sealed products, Commander precons, and more. You'll be helping the channel when you do.
Time on Shuffle Up and Play. I can't wait to see what happens.
We Hearthstone now because I've invited not one, but two famous Hearthstone streamers here today.
I'm gonna kick you in the shin.
Because I like you guys all so much, I'm gonna play Esper Sentinel. You want me to read it?
Are you
Urza.
kidding me?
Great. I'm gonna go ahead
and pay the one.
TGB, it's turn 1. Can you
Tezzeret.
relax?
Tap for 3 to play Phyraxia Unlife.
It's a miracle! Improvisation capstone.
Just let me know when I can kill you.
And that kid is called gentle parenting. I hit you once.
Listen, hit me again.
Relax, okay?
Hit me again.
You can't just ask that, okay? That could cost money.